Question of the day.
Question of the day.
Is crying when you lose a loved one a learned reaction? If so, why do we continue the cycle? Is it a learned reaction or is it natural?
I mean, is the first thing we do crying in this world? Typically, yes, right? Why do we
slide out?
You slide out the helter-skelter. What's the first thing you do? Ah!
Yeah, but what's that got to do with losing a loved one?
So I'm saying crying, can that be a learned response? I mean, I guess you can learn in the womb, I suppose.
What are you talking about?
I'm saying if crying is the first thing you do, is that a learned response or is that something that you do? Is that your attempt to communicate?
No, it's an attempt to communicate, but what's that got? I'm saying the fact that we cry when we lose the loved one, if you...
So it might be an attempt to communicate something, we're in distress.
Yeah, but see, now you've just added something else. So you're talking about crying is communicating distress, but it's not always communicating distress. But the fact that... So, for example, if we taught children to be happy, to celebrate when someone dies as if, like, they're going to heaven, it's a good thing.
Some people do, and they still cry.
Do they?
Yeah, people who think people are going to heaven, going to bed.
Yeah, but that's that's
you're talking about like on a psychological
level.
I'm
talking
like,
about
truly...
them tribal man. Them man start doing their dancing. They're happy. You see us, we believe in God, but we don't. You know what I mean? We're crying. If we're not 100%. Someone who really believes in God is saying, "Yeah, I'm glad my son dead because he's gone to God."
Kill him off long time ago.
So that's why I believe crying when you lose a loved one is a learned response, and we teach each other, and we see it on TV, and we just
TV plays such a huge role in pretty much everything. Pretty much everything we know, to be fair, because it's where we get our reference from, we get our concepts from, and it's just we need to bin all of it.
Anyway, but pause this video right now. Go and read How to Read a Tree by
Tristan Gooley. And when you've read it, you can join us for the discussion.
Or you can not read the book and join us because we're going to talk about it anyway. I'm Elijah.
And I'm Joseph, and welcome to the Aisha Library.
Once!
Get it right once.
So, what do you know about trees? And I know you're going to talk about rings, if you count the rings. Yeah, shut up. Do you know why trees have rings? Because they aren't there for you to count them, right? I'm going to tell you. The reasons why they have rings is because trees grow wider every year. So what happens is the wood builds up so that the overall girth of the tree gets bigger each year. So that's why there are rings, because the smallest inside ring is the size of how small the tree once was. So now you know something. You can go and tell your freaky friends. No, but that's the first thing. Even before I read this book, I was just like, the rings in it.
That's the first thing everyone thinks. The rings. Just cut it off. Count the rings. No one really knows anything, to be honest.
It's just hilarious.
It is actually pretty funny. Did you know that trees have internet made out of fungus? So when many of us think of fungus, we think of mushrooms coming out of the ground. This is in fact the fruit of the fungus, and the actual fungus are superfine threads that are interwoven with tree roots to form what we call a mycorrhizal network. Plants and trees use this network to transfer carbon, water, nutrients between one another and the ground. What's even more interesting is that when plants are attacked, they have certain defenses in place, such as the thickening of the cell walls. Scientists think that plants can use this mycorrhizal network, this wood wide web, so to speak, to send signals so that other plants on the same network can react in the same way as the plant that is being attacked. So not only were trees communicating with each other over considerable distances, what we must assume is millions of years before Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, but they were also sending other stuff, They're also sending signals that say, we're being attacked, you react away, we're reacting. Do you know what I mean? And it's like they have a whole network that's going on underneath the ground, and they're sending messages on mushrooms. It's crazy.
They're not sending nudes though, are they?
Yeah. And they're saying porn. Tree porn, And they're saying scientists think it's so interesting because
you see this piece of wood, have you?
I'd say my branch is longer than this branch.
Have a look at the girth on this.
I said, look at the rings on that. I think, scientists think it's interesting because they think it's evidence that symbiosis can be the driving force for evolution rather than competition. Because in evolution, it's all about competition. I eat this, you try to get away from being eaten. It's competition. So symbiosis is when things work together rather than competing. And it's like you see plants do this often.
Yeah, but so it has to. Things have to evolve to learn to cooperate.
Yeah.
They've got to evolve to learn to cooperate.
Exactly.
At certain points. So that's probably the king. Cooperation is the king because most things that thrive don't live in solitude. Things that live in solitude seem to be going on the down. So like lions, tigers, and whatnot. Whereas humans, even like wildebeest and stuff like that. There's millions of them. They breed like rats.
Good for the lions. Good for the lions.
Yeah. I bet you never noticed this. Trees always get taller as you walk into the woods. This is because the buffeting of the wind stunts the growth of the trees on the outside of the woods, whereas the trees on the inside are protected from the wind. So I guess the trees on the outside of the woods can't get too tall because the wind will blow them over. They have to stay stocky and strong. So basically, you'd be an inside tree, Joseph. You'd have to stay in the middle.
Yeah, you'd have to be an outside tree because you're short.
You'd have to stay in the middle with all the women and the children trees.
You'd have to be an outside because he's short. You midget. There is a tree in California that is taller than Big Ben, and if you get too close, you can get fined up to $5,000. In the Redwood National Park in California, there is a tree called Hyperion, named after the ancient Greek titan of the sun. It stands at 115 meters high, which is a staggering 20 feet taller than Big Ben. What's interesting is nobody knows its exact location. The Park Service keeps it secret, and people caught trying to access the restricted area where it is could be fined $5,000 or face up to 6 months jail time. It's a bit harsh, isn't it? Trying to look at a tree. Like, imagine that's what you go down for. Like you're in jail. They're like, "What'd you go down for?" Like, just looking at a tree.
Tree hooker. But yeah, see, that's the thing. You saying that reminded me. I wanted to do some research about that tree, and I wanted to put some notes in because there was an interesting fact. I'm just gonna go off the cuff, so it's probably wrong. But I'm not going to. I changed my mind. I'm gonna try and find it after.
You bottled it.
I chickened out. In summer, trees trick us. They look like they're full of leaves, but they aren't. This is a trick. If you walk to the trunk of the tree and you give it a kiss... No, not really. I just wanted to check you was listening.
I was like, yo.
I was going to catch you off checking you guys were listening.
I remember up until that point, I remember all this. I said, what?
If you go to the trunk of the tree and look up, you'll see that the trees are mostly hollow and largely leafless. This is because trees only grow leaves on the very edges of the branches, so the outside. Have you guessed this is about consuming light? There's very little light closer to the trunk, so there's no point of wasting energy growing leaves there. It's interesting how much basic information about trees that we just don't know, and it's probably because we don't actually see trees. It's almost like we actively try not to see them. I mean, we definitely completely ignore them. So
literally, I'm only just looking now, thinking they look like they got bare leaves on them.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? But it's all on the outside. You go in and you look up, and there's loads of branches without trees.
100%. Kind of goes back to a little bit what you said about humans' eyes not being good enough to see anything. We don't see trees. Never mind like atoms and things that people are wondering why we can't see. We don't even see the trees.
We don't look.
Now,
we
massive.
Actually look with our eyes.
We don't look with our eyes.
brains in some way.
Yeah.
We think of trees.
We see
as
what we remember. We see what we remember.
And it's funny. You've asked someone to draw a tree, and they just draw a line with the bushy.
Yeah, 100%.
And that shapes our mind.
The author literally said you draw a green lollipop, and that's what you draw, and it wouldn't be anything else. And it's like, is that what we see? Crazy. What's the most bored you've ever been? Once I was so incredibly bored that I colour coordinated all the seasonings in the seasoning cupboard. That is still not as bored as I am by reading this stupid book. It's 3:01 a.m. in the morning as I'm writing this. I'm fighting the urge to get drunk instead. It's not that there's no information in the book, but it's just that none of it is blowing my mind or even gently rattling my mind for that matter. I actually care less about trees now than I did yesterday, purely out of spite for how much this book is boring me. I can tell that author Tristan Gooley is passionate about the subject, but this one's a hard one to swallow. Pause. Honestly, if you're not a huge tree enthusiast, I really can't recommend this book. Not so far, anyways.
Oh, yee, slaying it. I want to just apologise to the author because I respect...
Tell him to come see me.
I respect... I'll show him a tree. But yeah, I respect him a lot because of how... or do I pity him? Of how enthusiastic he is
Look,
about
he was
it.
very enthusiastic. He
loves it.
He was very enthusiastic.
Man goes out of his house to
Yeah.
go on a walk to just go look at the trees
And he
that
said
he's
yesterday
visiting.
that birch was shinier than
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah, he
and
does-
that birch down the beach has different characteristics from that.
Is.
And it just sounded like he was so interested
He
in it.
loves
It's
it.
what it is. But if you heard what I was interested in now, listen, you wouldn't find that cool either. I'm just saying.
Tree branches actually have two jobs. One, they have to reach out towards the light, and two, they have to hold the leaves that harvest the light. But these are different tasks. This is why most trees have two different branch types, long and short. The long branches act as a scaffolding to hold up the branches. The short branches hold the actual leaves on the ends of the branches. You know, the short branches grow the actual leaves on the ends of the branches. I don't know if I blundered with that. When I read this, I was like, what in the photosynthesis is going on? How am I just learning this now? I guarantee I've seen multiple trees every day for the last 15 years at least, you know? So it just goes back to what we're saying.
You
You know?
literally don't see trees.
We don't. The thing is, right, as I said, in the book, there's lots of things to learn, but if you don't care, you just don't care.
No, legit. It's
you
not
just
even...
don't care. So I wouldn't recommend anyone reading the book. But
I
definitely,
mean, not unless you're a tree enthusiast.
Not unless
100%.
you're a
If
tree
enthusiast,
hugger.
you probably love it.
you know. But there's definitely some interesting things.
There definitely was.
You need done.
No, I've got about 5 or 6 more. Should I go twice?
No. I got.
If you're lost in the woods without a map or a compass, you could very well find out what direction to head in by using trees. This is something I actually did find somewhat useful.
Yeah.
We've all heard that you can tell the age of a tree by counting its rings, but there is far more information to be found on a tree than simply how long it has been standing. For example, if you are lost in the woods, you can be fairly certain of the direction that you should be heading, as moss tends to grow more heavily on tree trunks on the side that receives the most shade. In northern hemispheres, that would be the north side. Personally, I would never be lost in the woods. There's nothing in the woods interesting enough for me to be in the woods, especially not by myself. But if I were, now I could look at a tree trunk and be like, home is only 4,000 miles that way. Let's start walking. But I'd rather know that than not know it. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's funny that should happen right after I said there was nothing interesting in this book that I should read that part. It's almost like karma. But
That could help you travel at night time because you'd use the sun.
yeah, that's true.
Depending
Actually,
on how thick the woods are.
Yeah.
You know, you would use the sun.
That's
But I
actually
guess
true.
it
to
could
be
still
fair.
help you.
I mean,
at
it's
that time.
can't
It's good to know.
hurt. It
Can't hurt to
definitely
know
can't
that
hurt.
shit.
Literally, it's not nothing.
The scientific definition of curiosity is a cognitive-induced deprivation that arises from the perception of a gap in knowledge and understanding. Or you could say curiosity is like an itch which can only be scratched or satisfied by the consumption of information in that category. And I just like that.
I really
feel
like that.
I like that.
I
It's
really
it makes
liked it.
me sound smart.
And not only does it make you sound smart, it also just like, so that's what curiosity is.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I didn't actually know what it was before. I knew what the concept of it
Because if
was.
someone asks you, what's curiosity? I'd have said, it'll kill the cat.
I don't-
It'll kill you next. That's what I was going to say.
Legit. 100%.
You sure you want to know?
That's what I'm saying. Oh, that's funny.
So, yeah, now you know.
Literally, now you know. Trees are actually brand new. We think of them as old, but they did not exist for about 90% of Earth's history. Scientists concur that Earth is about 4.5 billion years old, and that the first tree was probably around 420 million years ago. This means that trees as we know them have only been around for about 9% of the history of this planet. Indeed, the oldest tree probably still alive is called Methuselah and is dated at 4,800 years old, which means it was well established during the time that the pyramids of Giza were being built. Like, we think of ancient Egypt as like an unfathomably long time ago, especially when we compare it with like ancient Rome, which was like yesterday in comparison to ancient Egypt anyways. But when you think about 420 million years ago, that's insanely long time ago that trees were around, and that's insanely small compared to the history of the Earth. So they've been around, they're basically brand new.
Yeah, see, I heard this fact, or should I say this piece of information, and it said if you were to stretch the existence of the, let's say you would if you was to stretch the existence of planet Earth onto a calendar year, so from January to December, so much things have happened on planet Earth before humans got here, it would be like the dinosaurs arriving in December.
I knew he was going to say that.
Dinosaurs arriving in December.
That's
what it'd be like. Arriving in December.
Jesus
they
Christ.
would last for a couple of weeks in December, and then
God.
they would die out, and then you have humans coming in on December the 31st.
Oh, God.
2 minutes before midnight.
That's insane.
That's how little we've been on the planet.
That is insane.
The whole 12 months, all of that shit.
Yeah, inconsequential.
That's how long we've been on the planet.
That's
so it's
insane.
Like, it's crazy to think about, isn't it?
Oh, God.
Well, you knew I was going to say December.
2 minutes.
Yeah, just 2 minutes before.
I mean, 2
it
minutes
might
can
not
be
even be
ages.
2 minutes. They might have been a couple seconds before.
2 minutes could be ages.
Oh, gosh.
Nah, that is insane, though. Jesus Christ. I mean, I don't know how they could possibly know such a thing, but
Well,
I trust them.
no, that is kind of, you can kind of work that out, to be honest, because you can kind of work out how long humans have been on the planet.
Yeah, and if you can do that, you can do anything. You could just 12,
Yeah.
divide by 12
Yeah,
or whatever.
you
I
can.
don't know how they would do it, but I suppose that's how they would do it.
But it helps paint a picture in your head.
It definitely helps paint a picture in your head, and it's a crazy picture of that as well. Like, fucking hell, December, So I knew it was going to be December. I knew it was going to be like one of the late months,
Yeah,
like
it
get a
wasn't
couple
gonna be-
months. No,
yeah.
the last day. I'm going to write an email to Kindle and ask for my $12.99 back that I paid for this book because it's shit. I had a sneak preview at some of the reviews for this book online, and lots of people were calling a profound revelation and using all sorts of superlatives, and honestly, I feel cheated. I'm sure Tristan Gooley knows all sorts of amazing facts about trees, and to be fair, he actually does, and he's said loads of them throughout the book. But so far, he's not done a good job of translating these things in such a way that me, your average reader, can understand and find fascinating. Like, I was expecting, I feel like I'm being harsh, I was expecting to go outside and be looking at trees like this. Oh my God, I have some mind-blowing tree facts. I was going to change the way I live my life. I expected to be transformed into a tree hugger. Make me a tree hugger is what I was expecting. But the thing is, we was never promised that. It's called How to Read a Tree.
I think you're being disrespectful, and if you don't say anything rude again, I'm going to switch this off. No, I'm joking. But yeah, no, I think you're being extremely harsh, and one day we will be big enough that this will get to Tristan Dooley's.
Yeah, Tristan Gooley.
This is his Twitter, and he'd come down here.
Yeah,
and he'd say, you know what, Joseph? Let's go out for dinner. No, no, but
he's going to show me some trees.
Yeah, he's going to show you some things and actually blow your mind.
Well, look, not everything's for me, Not everything's for me. My opinion doesn't really matter to anybody.
One thing I will say is that as I was reading it, I was thinking if there was one book that I will return and get my money back, it would be this book, just because why not? Like, I don't like to return books, and I never have, because I feel like it's cheap. But there were some good things in this book. Obviously,
there were some good things in this book, and I said some of them. I literally said some of them. So there were some good things in this book. I'm not saying it's a total waste of time. I'm just saying
it definitely wasn't.
What I expected and what I was promised were two different things, and that's probably my fault because, like I said, we wasn't expecting.
You know what? It was the reviews as well. The reviews built it up so.
Oh my God! The reviews were
high.
Even he was probably like, "All right."
He was like,
"Calm down." I didn't know it was that good
because people literally said they said, "Oh, this book was so amazing. It's life changing." As soon as I finished it, I immediately flipped to page number 1 so that I could reread it again to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Man. I literally said I wasn't feeling like that. Jesus Christ, my life remains unchanged.
You know what I mean?
My life's the same. I mean, there were some very, very interesting things in there, but it's like I can't appreciate them now because I was expecting something earth
cancer theory
shattering. Do you know what I mean? I was expecting the wheel reinvented. To be fair, my next part is very wheel reinventing. Did you know that trees help to fight crime and treat cancer? Trees and plants release phytoncides, which are antibacterial chemicals that help them fight disease. When we breathe these chemicals in, research has shown reductions in blood pressure and anxiety, and an increase in white blood cells, which kill tumour-infected cells. What's even more interesting is that according to the US Forest Service, areas with healthy, mature trees raise property values by as high as 20% and are correlated with reductions in crime, vandalism, and graffiti. So literally, trees reduce crime and help treat cancer. Like, there is no two ways about it. Like, they do. Scientists have backed this up. Humans are biophilic primates, meaning we have an innate desire to want to be around nature and life. I read a study that said in 1800, only 3% of people lived in urban areas, and by 2016, the number had gone up to 54%. Our genes are not adapted for living in urban areas, so it makes sense that being around nature and wildlife is good for us. In fact, it's a type of preventative nature therapy that the Japanese called Shirin-yoku, which means nature bathing. So literally, Japanese people in the 80s, they invented a study or preventative nature therapy that they call nature bathing. You go out into nature, no phone, no technology, and you use your senses to experience woodland, experience the forest. Go on a walk in the park, take your shoes off, whatever you're doing, and apparently it's good
And
for
that's
you.
funny because the vast majority of the population have not done that shit.
Oh, of
or at
course
least in
not.
the Western world.
Of course
Can
not.
you imagine taking your shoes off,
Literally
your
walking
shoes and
barefoot
socks
in
and
the-
walking barefoot in the
And
jungle?
just soaking up the woodland, the wood life.
It feels a bit tree hugger.
Tree huggery.
But
Yeah, it
at the
feels
same
like tree huggery.
time, you know, that's what you were born to do.
That's what you're
which
born
is
to do. There was no shoes.
Which
You
is
weren't born
funny.
with shoes
Yeah,
on.
actually, you're born to do that, which is
100%.
interesting. Maybe it's something.
We should do it now. No, but in all seriousness though, I thought that was super duper interesting that trees, we already knew trees helped us to breathe. Now we find out they're 30, 40, 50% more important than
They
we
can
thought they
fight
were.
crime?
They can fight crime. I don't even fight crime. Does that mean trees are more useful to me?
Oi. Trees grow leaves on stalks and branches. Trees grow leaves in a specific way, like a spiral staircase. This is not by accident, this is by design. If not for this method of cooperation, the leaves would try to compete with each other for sunlight. They'd grow as big as possible, casting the other leaves in shade. They'd do this to try and kill off the competition. Not only would that be a massive energy expense for the tree, but it'd be a pointless war. It'd be like England starting a war with Scotland. I mean, you know, they're on our doorstep. We've got to get on. We might as well. The tree almost acts like the responsible mother who knocks the children upside the head and tells them to share. These trees are clearly an intelligent life form, so I'm calling out all my vegan brothers. No more will you preach your bullshit when you're all hypocrites. No more will you... No, that's the end of the... I didn't have a speech ready for that, really.
I was getting into it. I was like, no more.
Yeah.
Literally. About to fight.
Tomahawk in your head.
Alright, Tristan Gooley, I bet you don't know this about trees. They hire bodyguards. Caterpillars chew through leaves, as anybody who has ever read The Very Hungry Caterpillar will know. And trees need ways to protect themselves from this. As a result, they secrete a sticky sweet sap that attracts other tiny insects. The insects eat this sap and defecate it back out as honeydew. This in turn attracts ants, who collect the honeydew and eat the caterpillars along the way. One thing I will give Tristan credit for is how he touched on evolution and how he kind of he was bigging it up, because like over the last couple of weeks we've reading all these books, I've come to appreciate evolution a whole lot more than I really did before, and he was even saying how good evolution is at solving problems. And I even said evolution is like a programmable 3D printer that can adjust its own programming to solve problems. So humans didn't just appear one day. We share common ancestors with chimps, or Elijah does anyway.
That's racist.
Is it? Is it? Put it in the comments. Is it racist? So evolution prints newer and newer versions of humans based on what we need and how what we need changed with our environment. So our feet used to look like hands, so we could swing from the trees, and then boom, we don't swing from the trees anymore. We need to walk, so our feet start looking more like feet. Basically, evolution starts printing different versions of us. And I just think it's a really good way to conceptualize what evolution is, like as a printer that can print just different versions of life forms, and obviously not just us, trees as well, because they said, I forgot to put it in my notes, but they said that there was a life form on Earth before trees, but it wasn't a plant, it was a fungus, and they said it was 25 feet tall, and it had the basic shape of a tree, basically, but it was a completely different life form, it wasn't a plant. But it just goes to show that evolution's been printing the basic shape of a tree, and it just changed materials, and it's like, what actually is evolution? We still don't know. What is it?
Well, you can't visualize it.
We can't visualize it. We can visualize it as a 3D printer.
Do you know, one thing I always thought that trees will be extinct one day, and I thought that we would invent these metal trees, so to speak, that do the job of, you know, one of those metal things could do the job of 20,000 trees or something like that, pumps out all the oxygen and whatnot. But trees do so much for the environment that it's not really possible. I don't think their primary role is oxygen. I mean, their primary importance to us is oxygen, but they do a lot for the wildlife.
Definitely.
For all around them. To be
Houses for birds, like,
Yeah.
and the list is probably endless.
Yeah.
The list is endless. Like, this Tristan Gooley's watching this, like, if only someone wrote a fucking book about the importance of trees.
Smooth bark on a tree is a sign that the tree grew slowly. Rough or cracked bark is a sign that the tree grew rapidly, you know, bursting through its skin. Oak trees have bark that grows 4 times faster than palm trees. They grow in environments such as woods where this is a competition for light, so they have no choice but to grow as fast as possible. Palm trees, on the other hand, are found in wide open spaces with an abundance of light. There's no need for them to spend so much energy growing quickly, hence why their bark is a lot smoother. In short, they grow slow. Honestly, reading this book has taught me how little I knew about trees. I mean, if somebody asked me, what do you know about bark? I would have been like, that's what dogs do.
Dogs do? Yeah, I know.
I'd be like, they came bounding over.
DMX used to do it. You know, I don't know. There is a tree that can commit suicide. In Madagascar, there is a type of palm tree called Taena spectabilis. Botanists know that this tree is hapaxanthic, which means it grows to a certain age and then flowers and bears fruit to such a degree that it expends all of its energy, collapses and dies. That is crazy. That is probably, besides the fighting crime and cancer thing, I think that's probably one of the maddest points that I've seen about trees, to be fair.
I don't know why it would do that.
I don't know why it would do that either. Evolution-wise, see, look at us, read too much. But yeah, it's weird. It is definitely crazy. But then why do we commit suicide evolution-wise?
Well, I read something quite interesting, and it basically said something along the lines of acorn trees are super smart. Yeah. So what acorns will do is they will grow acorns, drop them for 1 year, and all the animals and whatever will eat them, and then the acorns trees will communicate, and then for another year none of them will drop any acorns, none of them will grow any acorns, and what it will do is it will kill off the animals by starvation, and then next year it will drop an abundance of acorns, so that the population who ate acorns had gone so low, so the population, as in the animals, will eat some of them, but there'll be too many acorns, and then them acorns can actually plant.
Yeah.
So these trees,
they're literally strategically dropping.
In some ways, they're smarter than animals. You know?
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, they won, so
yeah.
No, it's true.
One interesting thing I read is that trees are actually fooled by artificial light from the street lamps. They regularly mistake the orangey bulbs for the autumn sun. These can continuously fool them, even all the way up into the start of winter. This means they'll go into their winter mode late, which can be very harmful to them, and it affects them for the whole of the next year. Obviously, they'll be going to flower late too, so it's almost like they'll be playing catch up that they will never be able to, because they will get fooled by the same street lamp again.
Because of that memory.
Just as we were talking about how smart trees are.
I know, right?
Fooled by a bulb.
I know, right?
That's been there.
Like
every
moths,
year you're
literally.
fooled by it again. Oh, I got you. You got me. Oh, you got me again.
Oh, that's peak.
Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah, no, that is peak. I just was saying how smart trees are as well. Turns out they're dumb as fuck.
But yeah, that's me done.
Yeah, that was me done as well. Look at that.
So, it's perfect timing.
Perfect timing.
I definitely don't recommend you. Yeah, I answered it just as he's asking. Yeah, I definitely don't recommend buying this book. I think all the relevant information that you could ever know about or want to know about trees, you just do a quick Google search, and that will be enough. That will be enough. These, you know what? It's like the Waterstones #1 book. That's kind of the reason why I read it. I don't know if you've gone past any Waterstones.
I'm incredibly jealous.
It's in the window.
Incredibly jealous. I have not. There's something about the system I clearly do not understand. But yeah, no, honestly, I don't think it was a bad book. It's just I was expecting it to genuinely change my life. I was expecting to just like go into the forest and live among the trees and just like leave my family behind. Like I was expecting that level of shocking. And maybe we read Stephen King, my standards are too high. But no, maybe it's just my expectations were too high just because of the reviews, just because of the hype about it. I blame Elijah, to be honest. But it was alright. It was alright. There were some things in there that I actually,
So if someone said to you, I want to read that book, How to Read a Tree, what would you say?
Do it.
Yeah, so you would say do it.
I'd say do it.
So you're not.
Want to read
they say misery loves company. No, but if you want to do it, then
curiosity never kill the cat, as it said.
If you want to read the book, then that's an indication that you might actually like it. But if it's outside, because this is completely outside of our comfort zones, out of our, it's out of our category. I don't regret. Do you regret reading it?
Nah, I don't regret.
Yeah, so it just didn't meet certain expectations. But what book can meet those expectations?
That's very true.
So yeah, this has been us at the Aisha Library. We've got some reading to do. Till next time.